All right, so this is Computer Science 305 and Programming Languages, and this is the video on solving both the out-of-class exercise as well as the in-class exercise for the Ruby regular expressions lecture. And so first off, we'll do the out-of-class exercise, and I'll talk about what's going on. So initially, we have this text that is from apparently from a log that has a whole bunch of we'll say expletive that we want to get rid of. So we want to get rid of the word ass or its derivatives thereof, and so we need to create an instructor program. So I gave you some extra starting code. So the first thing we want to do is copy this into our editor. And so if we go over to Atom and we look at the out-of-class exercise, we go ahead and copy that in there. So now the first thing we want to do is we need to be able to clean this up. So we probably want to define the regular expression which we want to work with. So we can do that by saying we'll just create regex as a variable, and we'll say it's we need to define the regular expression. So if we go back and look at our text up above, we have the straight up word ass as well as its capitalized version. So we need to be able to capture that. And so we could simply capture that by saying literally just having the grouping ass or ass, right? That would capture those. Unfortunately, though, it would not. We then recognize that we have a $$ as well as A55. So that would imply that we would need to then have A55, a $. Well, let's assume that we want to go for more than what's just shown to us. And if we did that, unfortunately though, if we did just this as it stood, and let's say we want to, we'll use that to capture, and we want to clean this up. So our cleaning involves using, by replacing that with the triple star. So if we said, if we return str.gsub, and then the regex that we just defined, and we'll replace it with 3 stars, and then we then call that method clean message. We'll say clean message msg, right? And then we print that out. So we store this into cleaned, and if we print cleaned, right, what we should see is probably not what we want. So if we go ahead and run this, that would be ruby regex 01.rb. What we do see is that it's not only is it replacing, it replaces most of the ones, but it also starts replacing things that we don't want, and it missed the a $. So that's no good, right? All right, well, we need to then go ahead and improve our regular expression. So one of our first improvements is that we can actually, we'll meet it on the boundary, and then we note that we need to follow it up by the dash here. We need to capture the dash wipe part. So let's say wipe, and we'll capture that with a question mark. So let's see what that does. All right, it's still missing one of them. I don't know why it's missing that, but we'll continue back. We'll get back to that in a second here. So we now know we have that. But what if we want to combine this down and maybe shorten this first group? We can do that by simply, I'm going to remove the entire group, and we can actually capture A or capital A followed by one of A, S, S, $, or oh, that's why it was missing that. But anyway, let's go back, and we need to capture this. So it's not capturing the dollars because I forgot to escape them. And so if we run this one more time just to validate, it will actually capture the asswipe part. And so now that we have that done, right, next thing we need to do is we can reduce this down. And so what this will do is allow us to have a little more refined regular expressions. So we can then say a little a followed by s, capital S, dollar, and 5, right? And we need to capture at least, we have to capture 2 of those. So that should capture most of what we're trying to do. So let's verify that. And we run it, and it captures the ass and asshole, the A5, the capital ASS, but it still is capturing assiduously and assure. So we don't want that. So that means we need to have the word boundary at the end as well. But we also want to be able to capture whole in there so that we make sure we get everything. And so this should be all we need to do. So we do that and we look at it. So it no longer captures assure or assiduously, which is good. It doesn't capture pass, but it does capture ass, A55, whole, capital ass, and the $$ wipe. So we get everything that we need to and are meeting the requirements of the problem. So now that we've solved that, and this is a pretty, this is a pretty complex, but not too difficult regular expression. The second problem, which is what we covered in class today, can be solved in several different ways. But let's first go. We have to go gather our the actual data that we need to look at. So we'll go grab that, and essentially what we have is this data that's from contracts, right? So I'm going to go ahead and if we take a look here, the first thing that it asks you to do is we need to capture just the completion date. So if we look through this, and we note that as I scroll all the way over here, that it says the first date that comes up is expected to be completed by date. So, but then there's a second date as we scroll further down that is the initiation date. So it's to be initiated January 14th, 91 versus being completed by April 30th, 1996. And if we look at the second one, I believe it's yeah. So it's a little bit further down. The first date that we need to find is the completion date. So we know that the first date, if we search this string, the first date that it finds will be the date for completion. So we can either work with that, or we can and we'll start with assuming that we're looking for anything that says completed by. All right. So the first thing there's lots of ways we can do this. A simple, in my opinion at least, way of doing this is first we need to start by looking at both items. So we're going to iterate across the array. And so we say contracts AR dot each. And then there's two ways to do this. We can use the curly brace form or the do end form. I'm going to use the do end form, and I call it a contract, and we'll end that. So once we're there, now we are iterating across this. So the contract, there's lots of ways to do this, and a simple one would be I can either match and then extract the item of concern, or I can remove everything but the thing that I care about. So your choices are up to you. I'm going to choose to match and extract. And so if you run a match on something, it'll return what's called match data as an object. So yeah, there's lots of ways we can do this. The first one, which we'll work with, would be to follow the similar procedure that I used when handling showing off different parts of a regular expression. And so we can start that by saying if we say contract dot equals tilde, and then we define a regular expression. And then if we match that, then we can puts the and then basically just dollar ampersand, right? Which is going to match whatever we found. So if we do this, we need to define what this looks like. And so there's interesting issues with matching this date. But essentially, if we go and look at it, it's the actual month written out, followed by 1 or 2 days, right? A space, 1 or 2 days, a comma, a space, and then four digits representing the year. And so there's a most naive way would be we could actually give it the actual month, right? And so we know that only May or April are there, so we could literally say April or May, and then the next thing was a space, right? Followed by one or two digits, so the /d matches digits. 1 or 2 tells me that I want to meet the range of it has to be at least 1, but no more than 2. Followed by a comma, and then a space, and then digit, then 4 digits, right? So this would be 4. Okay. So this will match. We probably should put a word boundary on here to match that, and ending at a word boundary. And then we end our if statement. And so if we run this, we get the dates as expected. Now, a slicker way of doing this, and this will work. Unfortunately, though, if June or any other date, actual month was in there, this will not match. So what we might want to do is come up with a slightly better way of matching this. It'll be a little bit more open, but at the same time may not be that big of a deal. So what we could do is we could say create a character class that matches A through Z, right, the capital letters, followed by A through Z lowercase letters, and then at least 1 or more of those. And so that will match all the months, but it will also match a whole bunch of other things. But this will become a little bit, we'll say, more robust of a match. It will capture all the months, and then the day of the month, and then the year. So if we go ahead and save that, and then run it again, we come up with the same answer. Now, so if this is all good and everything. So what we're going to do is we will go ahead and try to do this without having to use the if statement. And so if we leave our regular expression in place, what we can do instead is say contract.match, and then this here regular expression. And so if we do that and we just let's just print it out, this will return the first thing it matches as well. So then we say Ruby regex02, and we get the date. Okay, so we've solved the date part. The second part of this problem was, besides just printing it out, we need to print out the actual values gained from both the amount, which in this case is the contract award amount, which for the first one is 7.3 million, the second one was 6.9 million. And so what we can do with that is there's multiple ways we can do this. First off, we know that this first one matches a date, right, and it returns that value. So we could say date equals contract.match. We can then create an award, right, and we can say that is equal to contract.match, and then we can create another regular expression in here. And so we look at this and we say, well, it's going to match. Well, let's just assume that it's some $1 million. And so we can say we'll match. First, we have to match the $sign. That's the first step. Make sure we escape that. And then you can match a decimal, and then we can say between 1 and 3, followed by a comma, followed by a digit, 3 of those, followed by another comma, followed by 3 digits as well. And then match that on a word, on a word boundary, right? Okay, that'll match the award, and then we want to print this out. So then we say puts, and then we'll use string interpolation, right, so that we can actually print the values. So I believe if we go back and look at this so we can have the format correct, it should say award followed by the a space, a colon space, and then the actual award to be completed by, and then the rest of the data, right? So then we say award colon, and then the award value followed by to be completed on, I think by, and then the date, right? So if we do that, it should give us the values that we care about. And lo and behold, we get our actual correct answers. So now we can be a little bit more. We can solve this even better if we, instead of doing it the way we did, we actually operate this as one large regular expression. So now we can group them. So if we take this whole thing, we can group it. Right, so this first group captures the date, but we know the date happens after the award, so we'll capture the award first by moving this. Actually, I don't think I can do that. We'll capture that up here, and now so we have 2 groups. But how this is going to work, excuse me, is that it will capture. Is saying that this regular expression says, find me where there's somewhere between some $1 million value, a $sign followed by $1 million value, so, where each group of the $1 million is separated by commas, followed immediately by a grouping that is represents the dates that we are looking for. Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. If we look in our actual string, right, we have the award value followed by a whole bunch of characters, right? A huge amount of characters up until the date. And so what we need to do is we need to be able to we need to capture that, but not as a group. And the reason we don't want to capture it as a group, I'll explain in a minute here. So in order to capture that intermittent text, we can use the dot star, right? That captures all text. Or we could actually use dot plus, right? Because we know there has to be at least one thing in between. So let's just do that. And so now we have these 2 groups separated. So we don't have to deal with date or award. We can just say contract.match. And the reason I say this is because Ruby will store the found items for us in some special variables for regular expressions. And so each grouping is numbered from left to right, starting at 1 and increasing. And so we can meet, similar to how we use the $ampersand from earlier, we can use $1 to capture the first item, and $2 to capture the first, to read the value of the second group, right? And so if we run this, it should give us exactly what we expect. So we go ahead and say, we do this, and well, actually give us the wrong date. We'll have to look at that. Let's take a look at this. Maybe I was getting the wrong date. Yeah, so it's giving us interestingly, the second date. Oh, because I did the plus. Let's try it with a star. Okay. Oh, it's being greedy. I have to be aware of that. So it matched the longest possible version of it, right? And so there's an actual way of doing this, which makes it not greedy, by putting the question mark on the dot star, I believe, question mark will reduce that down. So let us take a look at this, and that gets us so that when we do a dot star question mark, that prevents it from growing the largest possible match. And so this gave us one large regular expression in there that matched exactly what we were looking for. So now what we could do, there's a few other things you could do to improve this, but this solves the problem as it stands. One of the other things we could do is also, instead, we could possibly use a /s here, but that, in my opinion, would not meet the exact requirements of the date. So instead of using an actual space character, we use /s, but that matches any type of space, and I don't think that's the appropriate thing for what we're trying to do. But that being said, that would solve this problem. So this is pretty short, easy solution, and now you can see how you can use these things. When I go to build regular expressions in my spare time, or if I'm doing it for an actual program, how I typically do it is I start and I try to break down what I'm looking for into pieces, similar to how we would solve or design any other algorithm, or any other, we use the top-down decomposition type approach, where we try to break it into small pieces, and then we can combine it as we see how the pieces go together. Once you've done that, then you should have a nice, tight, regular expression ready to go. But test it as each piece is built. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you all on Friday. Have a great day.